Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. I've got a fun product review to do for you today. So I went to my local art store and I found something that I've been looking to get for a really long time and I couldn't help myself but get it. So, ta-da! These are Turner Acrylic Gouache Japanesque color. Comes with 12 20 milliliter tubes. Voila! Alright, I got white, pale yellow, yellow red, deep pink, red brown, beige, pale green, yellow green, pale blue, dark blue, and black blue. So those are all the colors that come in this set, and they are Japanese-inspired acrylic gouache colors. Okay, here they are, all nice and dry. We got pale yellow, yellow red, deep pink, red brown, beige, yellow green, pale blue, dark blue, black blue, and then I did a couple mixes just to see how well they mix. This is yellow red mixed with yellow green, dark blue, and pale blue. I really like this super deep purple color that you get when you mix the yellow red and the dark blue. The pale blue and yellow red mixture actually looks a lot like deep pink to me with just a little bit more purple in it. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I need to work with mixing them more because I found them a little bit hard to mix. So I want to see if I can play around with that a little bit more. I don't know if you can see on the video, but these actually have a texture to them. So they have a beautiful matte finish, but it's almost like velvety, I guess, or like suede. It's got a little bit of a graininess to it, so I don't know if the video will focus on that. It's really gorgeous. I really like the finish. Now, Turner makes a pretty wide array of these. So I got this 12 set, but they actually make 45, I believe. They have a pack of 45 of these. So in the beautiful fold-out thing that I got with all of the Turner colors, they have, so it starts here and goes all the way. They even have some Japanesque iridescent colors that I would love to play with those. So all of the colors are rated excellent in Lightfast ratings, with the exception of deep pink, deep red, and pale yellow, which are all rated good for Lightfastness. So I'm really impressed with these colors. I think if I had to pick a favorite right now, the deep red and pale green and blue black. So that's not a favorite, that's 3 favorites. But in general, I really love these colors and I'm interested to see what I can do with them. So let's make some art. Before we get into the voiceover on this, I'm going to go ahead and give a preemptive apology if you hear background noise or whirring. It's just my air conditioner. I normally record my voiceovers without my air conditioner on, but it is just too dang hot in New York right now. So the air conditioner is going to come on and off and we'll just have to deal with it. I'll try to get as much of it out in post-production as I can, but at least we'll know that I'm not sweating to death while I record this, and that's a good thing. So I have worked with acrylic gouache before, never the Japanesque kind, but regular acrylic gouache. It's been a while though, so I am definitely rusty. Mostly in working on this piece, I wanted to see how the Japanesque colors with the kind of satiny, suede-y finish that they have and the texture is going to differ from what I'm used to when I worked with acrylic gouache in the past. And I struggled with this piece a lot. I had a lot of fun with it. In the end, I didn't actually end up liking it very much, but I had fun doing it. I found a reference picture that I really liked, and it had a kind of dramatic effect, and I was able to pick a really limited color palette that's mostly oranges and purples, and I liked that a lot. So I do think that I was able to capture the kind of dramatic feeling that was in the reference that I was going for. But there's definitely a learning curve here, coming from using watercolors most often to using a medium like this. There were some things that kind of tripped me up. I'm not used to my brush getting dry. You can see a couple times here where it almost looks like I'm dry brushing, so I needed to keep kind of re-upping the paint as I was going a lot more than I'm used to. I did find, surprisingly, that the colors blend pretty well. I was a little bit worried about that, but I was able to blend them. You know, while they're so wet, they blend just fine, and that came in handy. Layering was also very different, so, you know, in watercolor, you normally work light to dark, and when you're working with acrylic gouache, you can work dark to light, which is not something that I'm used to, and it took a little bit of getting used to that, realizing that I can put light colors on top of dark colors and it covers just fine, and it works. One of the slight downsides to the coverage and the opacity that I contributed to the learning curve is this will cover up your sketch. So with watercolor, I can almost always see the sketch underneath, at least until I get into the later stages where I've built up a lot of layering. With this, pretty much on the first layer, it's covering up the sketch and I can no longer see my sketch lines. So I think that was good and bad for this piece. It forced me to be a little less focused on the original sketch. I relied on reference a little bit more, but it also allowed me to be a little freer with it. One of the areas that I really want to improve and kind of grow in my art is moving away from reference. So, I mean, I understand that reference is important, and it will probably always be important, but I feel like I kind of rely too heavily on reference, and so in that way this was good, where I was able to kind of step away from the reference and the original sketch a little bit and be forced to create on my own, which is difficult and scary and empowering at the same time. Some other differences from the watercolor that I'm used to using, and even traditional gouache, these dry really fast and you don't have to worry about bleeding. So I am forever plagued when I do watercolor of being impatient and not waiting for something to completely dry, and then I paint something either over it or next to it and it bleeds and it can become muddy, and I spend a lot of my time trying to lift up mistakes like that. With these colors, they dry super fast and you can layer to your heart's content without anything getting muddy. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it a lot. And that's pretty similar to what I experienced previously with the regular acrylic gouache. As I said before, I was pretty interested to see what differences I would notice between this acrylic gouache and the acrylic gouache that I've used in the past. There weren't a whole lot of differences. The texture of the paint and the graininess did mean that it was easier to see the brush strokes, and in some places that gave a really cool effect. In other places it ended up looking a little bit streaky, and I fixed that normally just by going over with another layer to try and even out that streakiness, because it annoyed me a little bit. The other main difference, I think, has more to do with the particular set of paint I got, and specifically this particular color. The light yellow shade that I got was very grainy, almost as if it was partially dried out or it needed to be mixed a little bit better. So with that color, it was a little harder to make mixtures, and it wasn't insurmountable. I just ended up using more water when I was mixing with the yellow. For all the other colors, they're all pretty uniform in their consistency and really nice to work with. Something else that I found that I really liked about this, and I don't know that it's specific to this kind of acrylic gouache or even to acrylic gouache in general. It very well could just be that I've kind of grown in the way that I paint. When I've worked with acrylic gouache in the past, I didn't do much with transparency. It was always pretty dark, opaque, or not dark, but opaque, bold colors on top of each other. And this time, I think, strongly influenced from having worked with watercolor so much, I was able to kind of thin down the paint and use transparency a lot more to kind of deepen shadows or to have a very subtle effect where I wanted one. And I really enjoyed that. So it made the painting process a lot more enjoyable, and I like that a lot. I think it really speaks to the versatility of this medium, that you can do, you know, opaque, you can work dark to light, you can do a lot of layering, but you can also water it down and use it kind of in a diluted fashion, and it works just as well. It's a very, very pleasurable medium to use. I don't have a lot more to say about the paint itself. I mean, it was very pleasurable to use. I really highly recommend it. I think it's versatile and fun to work with. For this specific set, I really like the color choices. They're kind of more muted and pastel than colors that I normally work with. I don't think that I would necessarily recommend this set to be your first acrylic gouache set if you've never played with it before. There are better starter sets to get that come with more of your traditional primary colors and mix-in colors. This set is a great addition if you've worked with acrylic gouache in the past and you want to play around with something a little bit different. I would highly recommend getting it so you can, you know, play around with it and see if you like it. I like playing around with new mediums and new tools a lot. There have been plenty of times where I have tried a new tool or medium and I've struggled through the process and maybe not ended up liking the end results, as is the case with this piece, and then also not ever wanted to touch that medium again. This is definitely not one of those cases. I did struggle, but I felt like I learned a lot doing it, and I actually did find it enjoyable even though it was a bit of a struggle. It's definitely not one of the mediums that I just want to toss in a bin. Rather, I'm really excited to try again and to learn more about how to use this more effectively, and also to explore more of this specific color palette and the specific texture that it gives you. For the subject matter of this piece, like I mentioned, I found a really great reference photo to use, and what drew me to it was the kind of shadows, and it felt really dramatic. The other thing is smoke. I really love the way smoke looks. I think it's beautiful and elegant, and especially exhaled smoke. And very little secret, I was a smoker for like a decade or more. I quit about a year ago, and smoking is a horrible habit, and it's really bad for you, and you shouldn't do it. But I still find that, like, exhaled smoke and the way it curls and plumes, it's gorgeous. And I really wanted to capture that, and the fact that it's both the smoke itself, but also the shadow of the smoke, I just found it really, really interesting, and something that I wanted to try and paint and try and capture. I wasn't 100% satisfied with the way that I rendered it, but it was fun to experiment with, and again, another one of those things that I want to do more of and try again. The materials I used for this piece, for the paper, it's 5x7 Stonehenge watercolor paper by Legion Papers. I switched up the brushes a little bit and didn't use my tried and true watercolor brushes. Instead, I'm using some brushes that are meant more for acrylic or oils. They're a little bit springier and firmer. And of course, my favorite angled spotter brush for details. I will put links in the description to all of the materials that I used, including the acrylic gouache set itself. This piece, like the last piece that I did, is taped down with washi tape to a board, which I find makes it a lot easier to work on as opposed to just taping it straight to my desk. and here it is. And taping is still my favorite part of the entire process. Thank you so much for watching, I really appreciate it. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you can be notified of when I upload my next video. Thanks again, and have a great day.